The one.
The perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance.
Praise be to thee,
most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms, raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship, to thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity, thee only do we worship, and towards thee alone do we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty, illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful Creator, Sustainer, Judge, and Forgiver of our shortcomings, Lord God of the East and of the West, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings, pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace.
May the message of God reach far and wide.
May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide.
Inspirer of my mind,
consoler of my heart,
healer
of my spirit,
thy presence lifteth me from earth to heaven.
Thy words flow as the sacred river.
Thy thought riseth as the divine spring. Thy tender feelings awaken sympathy in my heart.
Beloved teacher,
thy very being is forgiveness. The clouds of doubt and fear are scattered by thy piercing glance. All ignorance vanishes in thy illuminating presence. A new hope is born in my heart by breathing thy peaceful atmosphere. O inspiring guide through life's puzzling ways, in thee I feel abundance of blessings. O thou who art the maker, molder, and builder of the universe, build with thine own hands the universal, our temple for thy divine message of love, harmony, and beauty. Okay.
So, we start with the purification breaths.
Yeah.
And then do a little shot of coffee for your grandson. What's his name again? Isaiah.
Okay.
Okay, you.
Okay. Okay, we can start with the purification breaths, which you all know. So just start with earth. In through the nose, and out through the nose. I'm making this for the recording. Drawing the energy of the earth up into your body, the magnetic field. Letting that align your magnetic field, and as you exhale, all the impurities that you may have accumulated over the past 24 hours become realigned and are absorbed into the earth. In the nose and out the nose. purification with water in the nose and out the mouth. Imagining a flow of water from your top of your head right through all the molecules of your body and into the earth. Cleansing, purifying, rinsing away, flushing away all the toxins, physical, mental, and emotional that we accumulate. Purification of fire in the mouth and out the nose. As you inhale, imagine a flame in your abdomen between the second and third chakra, burning up all of the personality toxins that we absorb and create. And as it rises to the heart, it's transmuted into a golden sun which radiates as you exhale. In the mouth, out the nose. And then purification with air, beginning with the exhale, out the mouth, in the mouth, very gentle breath, imagining that your whole being is expanding into the universe as far as you can possibly conceive, mingling with the energy of the stars, the light of the stars, and then as you inhale, you draw that purified energy back to yourself, rejuvenated, reborn, out and in the mouth. Then there's purification with ether, which is an extraordinarily gentle breath in and out both the nose and mouth. And you might feel or experience a sense of expansion beyond your normal boundaries, mingling with the angelic realms. Okay, so we're going to have some rhythmic drumming on our recording this time. This happened last year too. You think that they would check with us and find out?
We need to do the Shafi coffee.
I know.
Oh, okay.
May we include Gideon in that when we do
Yes.
this?
So what we're going to do is I just want you to inhale Shafi and exhale coffee. And as we do that, you can individually mention the names of people that you know need healing, but only if you have their permission and they know you would do it, okay? All right, so just breathe in Shafi, breathe out coffee. And as you feel it, you can mention their names. Caitlin Attard.
Isaiah Bodie. Gideon Savaki. Peter Phillips. Deb Slater.
I don't know.
Kermit and Doris.
Thou who art the healer of our bodies, hearts, and souls, by thy mercy may they be healed
By thine all sufficient
power
power.
of healing. Okay. So last year they did the marathon, and you had a class, and I wonder why they're sitting out there at that. I guess it's a watering station that they feel they need to have really loud music. I don't know what it is. And energy, I suppose. So, we're going to continue with Pir Vilayat's Course in Meditation from 82, I think. Something like that. And when we're done, at the end of the day, I have all this material to pass out. So take it with you, would you please? You didn't do it last time.
I thought of it.
If you forget, I have it on PDF. You can call, get me and I'll email it to you. But I made copies.
Is this the one that I?
Yes, but this
Yeah.
is from the original document.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the original document little by little.
Okay.
Okay?
So because of the charts in it,
Because of what?
the charts, the pictures.
Oh, the pictures. Yeah, the pictures and and other aspects that are, So, the very first lesson here, lesson number 5, is meditation at sunrise, which is, have you ever done that?
Mm-hmm.
Sitting there as the sun's coming up,
Not a long time.
imagining well, you don't have to imagine, you can feel it. The UV rays coming over the horizon before he talks about that here, before the sun appears, absorbing all that. It's an extraordinary experience. So the very first thing that he talks about here is to do Chagall, which you're all experienced with. And then there's some slightly different ways of doing Chagall later on in the lesson. But for now, what we want to do is just do 3 Chagalls at your own pace, your own speed, and we'll just wait for everyone anyway. And remember, you're not counting, you're just holding your breath for a comfortable amount of time. read what he wrote here. Dawn is the time to reach very deep into that space inside of you. At sunrise, there's a lot of ultraviolet light reaching you, not just from the sun, but from the center of the galaxy. So concentrate on violet light as you turn within while doing Chagall. After completing 3 Chagall breaths, open your eyes halfway so a little light trickles through. Concentrate on the stars, although you may no longer be able to see them in the sky. There's also the practice of looking at the stars while they become less and less visible as the dawn comes. If you do this over an extended period, you will be able to see the faint light of the stars even while the sun is in the sky. Realize that we are floating in a universe of light. And you are part of that. Not only the stars, but space is filled with light. Light waves and light rays. Now imagine that the Earth is a kind of spacecraft, and even our bodies are made up of that same light. This is probably Piralight's main teaching, that we are, each of us, a being of light. Now, I'm going to ask you to do the Chagall again in a minute, but I want to walk through this first. This time, when you partially open your eyes, in other words, you inhale, hold your breath, and then as you are exhaling, you partially open your eyes, okay? You cast the light from within towards the outside, sending your light out towards the stars. Morning is the period most conducive for meditations on illumination. Therefore, imagine a state of illumination where you are absolutely radiant. Having worked with the body in the breathing, we now complement the practice with a corresponding mentality. One has to smile at the sun. One has to remove all kinds of displeasure and dissatisfaction. The dawning of the sun upon the earth leads us back to our original state. One returns to a state of innocence combined with the wisdom one has acquired. Great artists have learned how to recover something of the state of the angels. Great beings are conscious of being both an angel and a master. There's no use doing these practices unless you find joy in yourself. So here's what we'll do. Do one more Chagall. As you do it, and use your inhaling, imagine this radiance penetrating into you. As you hold your breath, imagine that you are a body of violet light. Okay? And then as you exhale, slightly open your eyes and imagine this radiance reaching for the stars. Okay? Got all that? Okay.
Just one? Just one?
Just one. Notice any difference? A difference in intensity, yes?
I feel more space in my being.
More space in your being.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel.
Me too. I can't even tell when my arms are. I can feel my hands, but this whole section is space.
Okay. You had a similar experience?
No, I have something different. Where it feels like my head's being pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm happy.
Okay. I guess you found joy. Okay. Now I'll do another. This is the next instruction. Close your eyes. You're going to be really totally spacing the time we're doing this. This first lesson. Close your eyes. Put your fingers on your eyes and ears as you inhale. Notice you can say with the mouth. Hold your breath. When you exhale, remove your fingers from your eyes and ears. On the inhalation, be conscious of drawing light from the universe, especially into your heart center. While holding the breath, become aware of your aura and the light surging upward from the depths. And as you exhale, send the light of your aura to the sun. Okay? So just the eyes and ears this time. Okay? Any difference that time?
I realize that I have opinions or belief about being really bright and seeing really bright light isn't good. And I just had this experience of incredibly bright light that was only wonderful.
Wonder where that idea came from.
Don't stare at the sun.
Oh, right. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
I had, there was no light involved, but yet I could feel what I would think maybe it was energy, but I could feel a transmission. I could feel a connection, but there was no light involved, and I sort of said, well, I guess light doesn't have to be bright, or I don't have to experience a brightness to experience light.
Okay.
I read a teaching that Pure Light gave on black light.
Hmm.
It sounds sort of like that.
Mm-hmm. Could be black light experience, yes. It exists. What is light? When we say the word light, what is it?
A way of experiencing energy.
What is it ultimately, in terms of a physicist?
Particles of light.
It's
right?
It's a vibration.
Vibration.
Vibration, a frequency. And point sources are loci of that frequency, right? But the frequency exists all through the creation in various. You're a frequency of light. You're a combination of vibrations,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing static about you. Okay?
And black is far from an absence of light.
No, it's the other way around.
There's a difference in black light. It's spiritual experience of black light. It's different from just blackness because it's luminous.
It's what?
It's luminous.
Luminous,
Yes.
yeah.
So, there's a difference there.
Not only that, according to ancient Sufis, the black was the highest of experiences. Okay?
Yeah, so
Maybe you should be teaching this class.
So even in the Zikr of the Broom that Pirzia gives from I think it's the Naqshbandis at the crown, you concentrate on black light and that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, here we go. This practice may also be related to healing when the following themes are coordinated with the breath. Upon inhaling, open not only the pores of the skin, but imagine that you open all the cells of your body. As you exhale, discover a healing power and realize your potential for healing people, plants, and animals. While exhaling, extend the hands forward. In one palm, receive the light of the sun and focus the healing power on the other palm. This healing concentration can be applied by sending our healing thoughts to those in need while we extend our hands. Okay, so
I've forgotten.
Gives the instructions again.
you want me to read it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Upon inhaling, open not only the pores of the skin, but imagine that you open all the cells of your body. You can even do that as I'm talking, you know. And as you exhale, discover a healing power and realize your potential for healing people, plants, and animals. While exhaling, extend the hands forward. In one palm, receive the light of the sun and focus upon the healing power in the other palm. This healing concentration can be applied by sending out healing thoughts to those in need while you extend your hands. Okay? What's that feel like?
It's I have to really concentrate on that direction because I usually just think of sending energy out through both my hands. So it's counter to what I do a lot of.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's taking a lot of mental involvement for me.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's always the way it is at the beginning when you're learning something. It's always mental until you get it automatic.
It feels like healing, energy
It
coming
does.
through. But I just wondered if he intended to do this with the Chagall breath, with the Chagall breath or without. So we were doing it without, just plain breathing.
Doesn't say.
Okay.
I'm thinking that it would be just with the eyes and ears practice, where you're inhaling like this,
Oh, and then exhale and send.
and then as you exhale, yeah,
Okay.
that would be my guess.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because that concentrates the energy when you do a mudra. You know, when you put your hands in it. Okay. Did that make a difference?
The first time it felt heavy in both, like heavy energy in both hands.
Uh-huh.
And the second time it felt more like conduit, like I think it was just moving through.
You had the same experience?
It felt more focused
Yeah.
to me.
Well, practicing
Feels
too.
very natural,
Yeah, it really does.
like Mershid's.
Yeah, how often have you
definition
seen
of natural.
statues of Buddha or whatever, you know, like that?
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see the Jesus
I wonder if that's what it feels
stand
like
the
to get
light.
up. I wonder. I don't
Well,
know.
the mudras are pervasive.
Yeah, they're on all
Universal.
cultures.
That conversation we had last night about the sun and the moon, it, for me, that first time felt like I could really feel like a sun in my hand, and then the reflection of that, it was just so soft, almost like just not even a spotlight, just a light that could go out and just keep spreading, a gentle light coming this way.
Okay. You can become like an open book when there is no guile in your heart. The greatest power is the power of truth. It eliminates the darkness in us. purified of dark thoughts and shady emotions, we become sunlight in your aura, your mind, your psyche, and your soul. So again, it's a matter of practice, right? Paying attention, noticing. If guile comes up, where's that coming from? Because we all experience it one way or another. Or any of the other things that he mentions later on in the lesson.
What do you think guile is? What is guile?
Manipulation.
That's nice word, guile, but I'm not familiar
Wanting to
with
get
it.
something for yourself in a roundabout way.
Having
It's
an
like
ulterior
using
motive.
people. What?
Having an ulterior motive.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
But I think that there might be, when I read that myself, I thought, well, I don't feel guile, but I might feel other things, If, for instance, there might be fear, which would certainly block any light, or anything else,
Yeah.
Or would lead to guile very quickly.
or could.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Other places he mentions resentment as the biggie,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
which also leads to guile, actually. Especially when you're confronted with the person that you resent and want something
Or
from them.
situation.
Yeah. Okay, for the Sufis, the sun is called Prince Hurrakh. I'm going to spell this for you, those of you taking notes. It's Huraksh. Huraksh.
Aren't we going to be able
We're
to
getting,
get
forget the
copies?
I'm not
papers.
taking these notes, I'm writing my thoughts. 'Cause
Oh,
we're
okay.
getting this, yes?
Yes, you
You
get
don't
notes.
have to
Just-
take notes
yeah.
because you're going to get the paper.
Right,
Oh, but they're,
I'm just writing my thoughts. It's
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the people getting the recording don't get the paper unless they ask me for it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, the Prince of Generosity. And here's the reasons. He's burning his own substance in order to give light, and we too are burning our bodies to a certain extent. You can increase that combustion, which is a process called phosphorescence. Psychologically, it is linked to the generosity of the heart. If you give of yourself out of generosity, you radiate a lot of light, just like the sun. If you give of yourself out of guile, then I guess you're not doing much radiance. Right?
We sort of,
Or out of an expectation of return.
and so maybe that's why we don't glow in the dark, because it's so hard to
Did you ever hear?
totally give of ourselves.
Did you ever hear Bivalai talk about this? He was in Japan, and this scientist got a hold of him and asked him to do an experiment. And what the scientist had done is he created a box, a light-proof box, and inside this box, I think I told some of you about this. Inside this box were a lot of photo sensors. What do you call them?
Light sensors.
The light sensors, yeah, I guess there's a word for it, which escapes me at the moment. And the idea was that he was supposed to sit in this box and radiate light, and if he radiated light enough, these sensors would pick it up and a light bulb would go on. So he's sitting there and he's radiating light and nothing's happening. And the way he tells the story says, I'm sitting here, I'm radiating light and nothing's happening, and I'm teaching this and I'm supposed to know how to do this, and the light bulb's not going off. And so and then he just forgot that he shifted his mind into actually being light.
Instead of thinking about what it was
Yeah.
supposed to be
And then
doing.
the light bulb went off. Okay? And it's like Barbara Brennan talks about, don't think about yellow, be yellow.
Be yellow,
Right,
right,
yeah.
right.
Same thing. So take that as a lesson. Become whatever it is you are, your intent is to. If you are talking about healing, don't think about, I'm going to heal this person. Be the healer. Or be the conduit of spiritual information, or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, for me, it's like I have to get myself out of the way,
Yeah.
and I have to consciously do that every time.
Yep. Constantly monitoring yourself. Absolutely. I do the same thing.
A group of girls were sitting together and someone came along and they said, well, they're solving the problems of the world. I said, no, we're not solving problems of the world. We did that. Now we're the solution. We're fulfilling the solution. Of the plan.
Okay.
We're living it.
Having learned how to expand, or rather to decenter consciousness, the next step consists in freeing yourself from the constraint of your personal self-image. Imagine your nature to be like a vortex, a whirlpool without boundary, coextensive with the many-splendored bounty of the universe. Go ahead and do that.
Did you read the first part again? I'm sorry.
Having learned how to expand, or rather to decenter consciousness, the next step consists in freeing yourself from the constraint of your personal self-image. She snickers.
Well, because then you said do that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the next part.
Yeah, it's the next step, and it is something that you can, practically, in a practical way, you can do this for limited periods of time, which is advanced. Okay, just to even do it for a nanosecond is more than most people ever experience. Right? So, and you're doing it consciously, being aware of all of the many, little arguments that your subconscious mind comes up with about why you can't do it. Right? Nevertheless, you go ahead and persevere with paying attention to disassociating yourself with your self-image.
I think there's a practical way. I have this, and maybe this is all my ego speaking, but anyway, I've been thinking about this lately because I just took over a program since the last time I saw you.
Oh yeah.
And they have an image of me from my reputation in the community, where they think that I am very nearly completely a miserable bitch out to get them.
Oh, isn't that true?
Oh, gee. Well, it is true, yes.
I mean, as far as this
And I
particular
maintain
aspect of
that.
the community is
Yes.
concerned, and
Yeah,
it's kind of a helpful image. Isn't
Gave
it?
him a little lecture the other day about how jail is not the worst thing that ever happened to him. And but anyway, I've been thinking about how there's this funny way in which that doesn't actually fit in my head, that image.
Why should it?
Right, but it's sort of
The
good.
nasty bitch image?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And so, like, I confuse my self-image by taking on different roles, or I don't confuse my self-image. I think I know who I am.
Yeah. But those taking on the role in that case is very useful.
I think it's useful work for me to not know who I am, and to have different roles in my life.
It's like putting on a costume and taking it off.
Oh yeah, like being an actress.
Yeah.
My boss is always telling me that this work is nothing but theater.
Really?
What were you saying?
I asked her, does she feel that way in sales? Because I can really identify the past year of
Oh yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I've often thought almost precisely how you articulated that. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
good
that's
for
how
us.
I
point
felt
of
when I
almost
worked
just
in
having to
corporate
let go.
environment.
And not
Is that
care.
I was always playing a role, and I always knew that it
Yeah,
wasn't really.
you had that experience,
Yeah.
don't you? We've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Floating in and out of that.
Yeah.
Well, we all do it, don't we?
Sure.
You know.
Every day in different relationships.
Sure.
I think it's good for us as long as we remember that this is all surreal. This is too,
Sure. Yeah. Even what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
is-
we really get caught up in that skin.
So we're caught up in our self-image, and that also is a role. You know,
And an attachment.
an attachment, right? Very good. So yeah, so doing this exercise then of the vortex, can we do that again?
Yeah.
You know, it changes things.
Can you read
a
it
lot.
again, please?
Having learned how to expand, or rather to decenter consciousness, which is what we were doing, the next step consists in freeing yourself from the constraint of your personal image. Now, this is something that he taught a lot, what I'm going to say next. Now imagine that imagine your nature to be like a vortex, a whirlpool without boundary, coextensive with the many splendored bounty of the universe. Now, what he would further teach in other sessions about, as you inhale, you can imagine that vortex speeding up, whirling faster around you. And then as you exhale, it expands, and you experience the boundarylessness of your being.
I broke something when I spoke that way. Inside I feel all jellied up.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Oh, gosh, you're in for it now.
When you get to the jelly point.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like something, like bringing in that self-image made me like.
Yeah, okay. So you're always flipping back and forth. Hopefully, you're always flipping back and forth between these two states of being. One is the personal consciousness, in which you're doing your everyday thing, and whatever it is you're doing. And the other is this extraordinarily expanded being that has no limits.
But as long as I'm observing it, I haven't let go
Right.
of my sense of self.
Heisenberg principle.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's the
when you look at it, when your observation changes the.
Sure. So
Yeah. Okay. But you got to start somewhere.
Finish
Yeah.
that sentence, please.
What is
The
Heisenberg
observation
principle?
changes the,
Yeah.
it's quantum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's quantum physics.
Yeah.
When you observe, what is it? The other one part of that, is it a wave or is it a particle?
Mm.
Right. It's both. But
Sure.
when you look at it, it has to be either one or the other.
But pursuant to this section, as long as I'm observing, so I just when we were practicing, I just sort of toggled between more sense of self as a vortex and then beyond that. But as long as I'm observing even the beyond that, I haven't escaped myself.
Nope, you haven't.
You shifted though.
You shifted a little bit.
There's a shift. So it's like the experience widens. That's what it's. But you're always going to have your ego. Even if you got rid of your ego, another one will pop up. No, it would. It's like
Like
so-
bunnies.
Exactly. So as you concentrate on the exhalation of the vortex and that it doesn't have an edge, but it's all part of the universe, the cosmos. It's like that just keeps expanding, and you lose the limited concept of the self. So it just shifts. Yes.
Yes. There's another factor that's important. This is preparation. Because when it actually happens, it's terrifying.
Mm.
So as long as you have a lot of practice in what it ought to feel like, even though it's not going to be quite the same, there's still some similarity. So you have a place to go, somewhere to anchor your.
A little less fear.
Yeah.
So that's my question is, obviously, from what you just said, there will come a time and a place when I don't have the awareness.
Right.
Then how will I know I had it?
Oh, you'll know after.
Oh.
You always. This is just okay. We've talked about this before, I think. You always know. How do I say this? Let me think. That drum isn't helping.
It's grounding us.
Yes.
It's just doing really
When you go into this state, it's axiomatic that you must be, I suppose you could say, ejected after a certain point. Okay, that's enough. Get back to work.
Even the
Kinda like
Buddha
that.
stood up.
Huh?
Even the Buddha stood up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. He was like, okay, I got some work to do. Yeah.
Right, yeah, you can't just hang out there.
No, you're not allowed. The longest I've ever read about was Ramakrishna, who was in that state for 3 weeks. And while he was in this state, he had an assistant who was forcing water and food into his mouth, right? So he could stay alive. 'Cause otherwise, he wouldn't have survived.
Daskalos.
And his body just automatically accepted the nourishment.
There's a Christian Greek guy, Daskalos, who was like that.
Did the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about him. Maybe we can-
I'll give you
Yeah,
his
I
book. It's
Oh
very
yeah, I
cool.
love it. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Well,
And
I
I think
like an
Teilhard gave
assistant
Chardonnay
first.
Yes, they had assistants before they ever went there.
Yeah,
Did he do that too?
that's what she just said.
Teilhard de Chardin.
I've read about it, but and I'm not sure he went quite that far.
Yeah,
But he did go in very deeply.
yeah.
And it's a common experience. It's what Sufis call the black. You go into the void. You completely lose your sense of self. It's a samadhi practice. You are no longer concerned with the ego. It just disappears.
So we shouldn't try to practice this when we're alone.
I don't know. I have.
I think it takes years to get there.
I think it's perfectly all right.
Yeah. You know. The people that we mentioned are rare.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily rare cases.
In Daskalos's case, he would go places and come back and be able to tell you the things he'd done. Like he would go and help. It was during the war between Cyprus and Turkey, and he would go and help different.
I think that's a different state at the end.
Yeah, maybe.
That's very different from what we're
It's a
talking about.
But he would be
Different
gone
state,
for a very long time, and they would help
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
They would help his body stay alive while he
So he
went
was an
there.
Orthodox monk or something?
He was an Orthodox radical whack job.
An Orthodox.
They
Okay.
tried to uncommunicate him, whatever you call it.
To excommunicate. Yeah. That's what they always do.
Because he liked the Turks as well as the Cypriots, even though he was a Cypriot.
How unfortunate for him. How'd he do?
He died of very, very, very old age. He just moved over. He moved over from alive to dead.
Could you spell his name?
Daskalos, Daskolos. His book is called The Magus of Stravolos. He died like in the.
So it's a biography of him. No, it's not an autobiography.
No,
Okay.
he wouldn't take the time. to write.
Both Moshe Sam did this, Pierre Wyatt did this. They didn't talk about it a lot, but yes, they did that.
There's not much you can
in-
say.
in-
The intellect doesn't work very well there. You can tell how to get there, but then even that doesn't work because the roadmap is kind of.
I meant that they did what she's talking
Oh
about.
yeah. Oh, you mean helped other people by
Yes,
by
and
sure.
especially
Trans.
during war, helping people to cross
Location.
over who had died violently.
That kind of thing. Sure.
Yeah.
How about the story of Padre Pio? He appears in the sky and all the guys flying. He tells them turn around, go back, and they actually see him turn around, go back. Carolyn Mace talks about that event, and
We're talking about World War II.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
I remember
it
seeing a
was
reference to
World War
that somewhere.
II. Yeah,
Okay, moving right along.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Is it in
And that they tells them to go back where?
turn around, go. Not to
Physical
attack. I
Oh,
can't
I see,
remember
I
where.
see, I see.
But he appears in the sky.
I
and
see.
to tell these guys not to pursue their path
Mhm.
where they're going. Yeah. So,
Okay, now back to the vortex. We're intellectually talking about something that the intellect is not very capable of grasping, but nevertheless, it's what we're stuck with. So what you want to do is to, as we're working through these practices, you can do them later, and get used to the idea of being a boundaryless vortex. That's what you really are. You know, we're so closely identified with our bodies and our learning experiences, language, thought forms, all of the things that we believe ourselves to be. And that's useful. But also know yourself to be an infinite being. Okay, and here he says, as you expand your sense of identity and infinite regress, you understand what that means? You understand regress, right? Moving away. Your being is expanding in infinite regress. Think of it in terms of boom, 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 boom.
Progressing
like
away
a
from
series, like if you're standing in front of a mirror and there's a mirror behind you. You know, like there's this hallway in one of this, I think it's on 57th Street, one of the office buildings. I just love this place because you walk down this hallway and there's, like 10-foot high mirrors on both sides for like 30 feet. You know the place I'm talking about, right? It leads into a restaurant. And you can just stand there and you see yourself in infinite regress. Until the being is no longer identifiable. Because it's bang, 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 back and forth, constant.
They always had that in the mirrors in the trains. And I traveled as a child with my family on the trains, and I used to go in the bathroom just to do.
Oh, look at the
hang out
mirrors?
and see how far I could see.
You were an odd child.
We had that in ladies' dressing rooms.
Or in
department
if you had
stores,
three.
Yeah, with the 3 mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
They used to have them. They don't anymore.
No. So that's infinite regress. You lose that very sense of personal identity and acquire a sense of being impersonal or cosmic. Ponder the words of Rumi. I am the nameless and the formless and the timeless and the spaceless. Although a vortex does not have a boundary, yet as you zoom back towards the center of your notion of yourself, which we now represent as a boundless vortex, as you inhale, you recover your personal image, yet as envisioned in the wider context of the universal ground. At this juncture, you realize that you are actually processing in your personality the infinite wealth of attributes, qualities, and potentialities of the entire cosmos in a unique manner. You may now realize that you are not just a vortex, but a template. More so, a mutating matrix. A template is static, a matrix dynamic, not only self-formative, but impacting the environment with the stamp of your personal signature, your idiosyncrasies, and your own special originality. Oh, this gets even better. You are not just the convergence, confluence, conjugation of all these ingredients that have come into the confection of your being. In fact, these are infinite, including ultimately the boundary of the whole universe. But you are the congruence of that whole process. You are the goal that the universe intended to manifest by thus composing itself. You are not just the unpredictable outcome of an inexorable process, but the objective of that process. What is more, you act not only upon the environment, but upon the very formative process that forms you, altering it as it forms you, participating in your own creativity. Okay? Got all that?
So in one of the kinesiologies that I practice, we sometimes work on the layers,
Uh-huh.
on the layers that are outbound, because that vibrational frequency manifests inward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He looks stunned.
Nature demonstrates this all the time. Like
How is it demonstrated?
in the ray of a sun, in a sunbeam,
Okay.
in a wave.
What else?
Wind?
You ever watch a group of birds flying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, or a school of fish? You know. Moving about.
Or the herds of animals in
Herds of
We see-
animals,
yeah,
exactly.
we
You know,
see
you
that.
watch them from a helicopter. What do you see?
Africa. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Or crowds of people.
Crowds of people too. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
There's this wonderful moment in, I think it's the movie Quantascacci that Phil Glass did the thing for, where the cameras in Grand Central,
Yeah.
just at rush hour in the evening, and all those people are coming down the escalator. You know, there's this wave of people, and they speed up the camera. You know, so you see this great wave of people hitting the floor and spreading out and going off
Yeah.
in their own directions. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful image. Yeah.
And
So.
crossing streets and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
So we're all subject to it.
When I see those things, it makes me want to go off and be alone.
Oh yeah.
But then we
You live in the
we
middle of the
have
city.
that desire. We
We still do. Yeah.
we just don't see it as
Right.
the fish.
We have our own patterns. We're part of those patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I just love this.
Isn't that funny that our egos try to tell us different?
What does our ego try to tell us?
That we're individuals.
But we're not part of that wave.
Now that's
Right, you know
interesting
that-
because that is very much a cultural phenomenon. Other cultures don't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah.
I guess
But
not.
I have to say that we are all unique. We're totally unique. It's like otherwise the creation would be rather static. So we're all, even though we are totally unique in our qualities.
He says that right here. Yeah.
Oh, let
Yeah,
him say it. He
right.
says it much
But
better.
it doesn't mean that we're not part of the flow.
Right, right.
Well, you're the drop
But
in the
we-
wave
Being
at the same
unique and
time.
being part of the flow.
Yeah,
Our-
no, I didn't say that. But
No, I
you
know
yeah.
you didn't, but I was
Yeah.
saying an addendum.
Okay, at this juncture, you realize that you are actually processing in your personality the infinite wealth of attributes, qualities, and potentialities of the entire cosmos in a unique manner. You got to go back and read this stuff 4 or 5 times. You know?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
He comes out with it and it just spews out of his mouth. But here's, this is.
I listened to these tapes from '82.
You probably have this stuff, and it's the same stuff. Sure. Okay, this next part is, I'm not sure I'm going to go into it. You can read it on your own. Because it's kind of hard to read. Because it's faint type. But it talks about what's called the solar initiation. Now, yeah, I'm not going to read all of these stuff.
Maybe
Because
you
there's more
could put it-
material to go through.
Perhaps you could put it in your own words.
The solar initiation, yeah, I can. Ultimately, what it is when you get to a point of understanding generosity. Not from the point of view of just, like I knew a manic depressive that gave away all of his antique furniture once. That's not, that's just being a manic. That's being manic. Well, they call it bipolar now, don't they? But offering of yourself with no expectation of return. Not maybe just your radiance or your sense of centeredness, your awareness of the infinite vortex that you truly are. so that it becomes less and less an experience of commercial interaction, and much more an experience of divine love. Emerging. Because, that's the nature of the sun. And in the solar initiation, how do I describe this? It's like a very concrete understanding of the reality of your life within the body of the sun. We just recognize that. We are all within the body of the sun. We see this point source, but this point source is, continues out forever. Someone standing on a planet 200 million light years away can very well see the radiance of our sun, right? The photons continue infinitely. So we're always in the body of the sun. When you recognize that and experience it as a reality, everything changes. That's the solar initiation. Okay? It's a realization. And you can tell if you've experienced it. You may not have, when you're standing outside, I can imagine, for instance, as a child standing out in a meadow, because I was like, way in rural Minnesota, out in a meadow, surrounded by trees, no one around, and looking up at the sun, like you're not supposed to, and feeling loved, I suppose, would be the feeling. That's the way I would express it now. At the time, it was just, I belong here. Okay? Every child experiences that.
That's interesting, because as a child, I looked at the sun as well.
Yeah.
And that was before I was taught that I wasn't supposed to.
Right?
But I thought it was wonderful, to look at the sun.
Yeah.
And I suffered no ill effect from it.
I wonder if that's part of the draw for some people for sunbathing. Because that's when you were talking, I was thinking of the feeling that I've had when I used to lay out on the beach in the sun and just dissolve in that pool.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That warmth, yeah.
Maybe. Might be. So we've all experienced that in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nod your head, Christy, so I can see. Okay.
I'm not coming back. You're gonna feed me lunch.
Oh, okay. So, what does that tell you about who you are?
Love. That there is more than enough love to go around. That's what I was thinking when you first started on this track that I can't remember where we started, but when we come to realize when the sun teaches us that there is more than enough love to go around.
Okay.
That's generosity.
Mm-hmm.
Light, radiance.
Okay, well, let's just get really basic. You know that you are created from stardust. The body that you are inhabiting was originally a star. And it was either, there are two theories. One is that it was, the planets were kicked off from our sun and formed the planets as we know them, or there was a companion star which disintegrated and became the planets as we know them over.
Some Gemini made that one up.
Quite possibly. But anyway, we know that through the process of, cosmic evolution, that's how it works. That you are in fact stardust. So why shouldn't you? Isn't it wonderful that your soul, which is not part of that whole process, gets to experience this in the most adventurous way? Because if your soul enters into the soul of a tree, you're kind of stuck. Right? You ain't going nowhere. At least I always think of it as an exploration mechanism. When I'm thinking science fiction, like, yeah. A way to get around. Yeah.
What is an exploration mechanism?
The body you're in.
The creature.
Yeah.
The
That
movement.
thing you walk around in.
Well,
So
it
if you're-
definitely is.
Yeah.
If your soul is in a tree, then you just get to have that tree experience.
Oh,
Pretty
you're
much.
grounded.
Yeah, you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. Unless someone turns you into furniture.
Chained to the radiator in my bedroom.
There's a Buddhist illustration that says that the chances of you being manifest as a human are the same as a blind turtle swimming up from the depths of the ocean and happening to emerge on the surface in the center of a plastic ring that's floating there, or a rubber ring.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a good image. Yeah. Okay. So your soul insisted on this.
Incarnation.
Yeah. Well, this illustration I really love. Your soul is quite happy, floating around in infinite regress.
You know that story? I don't know how it goes because it's one of the first stories I ever heard about how the creation kept happening, and there was these souls that just never left the presence of God, and then when God asked them what they wanted, they said, only you. But they got to be humans anyway and became Sufis.
Yep. Yeah, well, he tricked them. That's kind of
Do
the
you
way
know
I
that
feel.
story?
I do. I've heard it. Yeah.
Can you tell it?
No, it's fine. The way I feel about it is that these very souls that they're hanging around, and all they want to do is give praise and be happy. But this very clever recruiting angel comes by and says, "Would you like an even better experience? Would you like to have more fun? And why? Yes, that sounds marvelous. What do I have to do? Just follow me. Here we go." Like
You
that.
end up sitting in rooms like this.
Yeah. After you go through all of the self-pity stuff. It's usually part of it. You have to go through that first. Get rid of it.
A couple of years ago, I actually went to all of summer camp.
Really?
And
were you flush or something?
I had a whole bunch of money. Thought I'd give it a try. But there were 3 talks that Pirzia gave that are like simplistic, not simplistic, they were beautiful. But anyway, one was about how we have been taught to negate our imagination, and yet that is the primary path to God.
Yes.
Which is what the whole afternoon will be about.
Pretty much, yeah, right. But we can start there actually, because I think a couple of you heard me give this lecture before, that it was in the 15th century when at the beginnings of the Protestant movement that Westerners separated and let go of mythology and the usefulness of imagination. I mean, at the time, it probably seemed like the right thing to do because they had to separate from the abuses of the Catholic Church, which was very abusive at that time. But there was a whole body of information and practices that they also let go of. And that was like throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing.
We're good at that.
Yeah. So from the 15th century forward, here we are in what century are we in? 21st?
21st.
Yeah, right. 600 years later, we're still fighting with that.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but we still have our mythology. Superman, Spider-Man, so on and so forth.
Oh,
Oh, God.
They're all people.
Well, yeah, Joseph Campbell says humans will never exist in a vacuum of mythology. We'll just create a new one, Superman.
yeah, that's what we do. Right.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
One of my most embarrassing moments in life was early in initiation. I was at a thing with Aziza, and she was talking about holy languages, and it was a small group of people, and she started talking about ecclesiastical Latin, and I burst out and said, "That's what's enslaved people." I was born and raised Presbyterian. I was taught all of that and had never questioned it until that moment. That is the ecclesiastical Latin I was taught was the language that enslaved people to the Catholic Church.
Oh, interesting. Yes, I was taught the same thing now that I think about it. In the Lutheran Church. Yeah, well, Lutherans are adamant anti-Catholics, yeah. We started it all.
Yes, Calvin followed.
Yes, he did.
Who did? Hamilton?
No, Martin Calvin, John Calvin.
Oh, John.
And then Wesley.
John Wesley.
Huh? Yeah, him. He went along with the whole program. And there was that craziness in England, and just went on and on. So we abandoned myth as a way of explaining, and now we're beginning to create myths that are suited to our secular point of view. In other words, they're not magical; they're scientifically mechanical, right?
Like what?
Superman is only capable of doing the things that he does because he came from somewhere else.
Oh, but that's still.
Iron Man has obviously created his thing.
But
Spider-Man
it's
was
still
bitten by a
magical.
radioactive spider.
Yeah, but that's still
I know more.
magical, quite
But
magical.
science is also a form of mythology, as you just described it.
Yeah, it is. But all I'm saying is that our method of describing the myth changes. It makes it, it's culturally more acceptable, right? Well, what we want though is not to be rescued. What we want is to learn from these myths how to rescue ourselves. Have you ever noticed in science fiction movies that there's two forms of association with aliens? In one form, aliens are here to eat us. You are food. Aren't you happy to be food? Or they're here to, like in Independence Day, they're here to, because they don't want us here, they need our planet, and you guys are just in the way. So they're, exterminate you. And the second form is they're here as saviors to provide us with the answer
To wake us up.
or the answer to the next question, or whatever. Yeah, to wake us up. All right, those are the two forms. So what does that tell you about how we feel about things? That somehow the external environment is supposed to take care of you. Right? That's what the myth is saying. Right? Okay, is that true? Much as we'd like it to be true.
Well, it's an abdicating of responsibility.
For one thing, but
I think in each case it's an abdicating of responsibility.
okay. But why do we do that?
Because we don't want to wake up.
Why not?
I mean, for the vast majority of people.
Because taking the apple is a huge responsibility.
Okay. What else?
We don't want to know that we are God. We are of God. We don't want to know that we are of the holy.
You want to know it.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, there
But
must
I
be
know
others.
lots of other people that
Fear.
live their lives. Oh, nice.
Okay, what else?
Don't want to make mistakes.
That's the one. Thank you. Think about it. If someone else gives it to you, there's no, and it's wonderful.
Their fault.
Yeah. But if you have to do it yourself, And it's just like you kind of expressed it. What if I get stuck there? Should I do this by myself? Right? Yeah. And we're always afraid of making a mistake. When in fact, what you need is the courage, the discipline, and the patience to move forward.
And the faith. I've been totally enthralled with listening to the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about how you don't understand. You and I have lived many lifetimes, and I know it, and you don't.
Yeah.
Like we don't have the faith to realize that when we make a mistake, it's just gonna.
So what do you know? It's good. That's a good point. What do you know? You don't have to answer that. It's a rhetorical question. But imagine that there are continual sources of evidentiary experiences that you are constantly being given. Whether or not you pay attention is up to you. Of your own ability, capacity, genuine nature, authenticity. It's constant.
What is that place in there where it says that no matter what we do, it's all in God's plan?
I don't know. Somewhere in here. There's a lot of material. But, even that is, remember, the words of Ibn al-Arabi. How do you say it? I don't remember exactly. I'll have to paraphrase that. Even when God created the universe, he absolutely had to allow for free will. Otherwise it wouldn't work.
Otherwise what?
Otherwise it wouldn't work. It would just be a puppet show. What would be the point of that?
Right.
We wouldn't have a vehicle for
There would be no learning. Right?
experience.
So there are lots of techniques for entering into these states. That every esoteric system has its own techniques. Ultimately, what it always comes down to is, no matter what the technique is relaxation. Relaxing the mind. Or getting the mind bored. That works too. Mercer talks about it. He says the ultimate purpose of chanting is to bore the mind. Just get it to stop. Okay, I'm tired of fighting with you. I'll just relax, kind of thing. And you'll notice maybe that from all of the Shagala we did at the beginning, how do you feel now? Didn't that affect you? Didn't help you to feel, less than...
Much easier to receive and comprehend too.
Yeah.
To feel, to grasp.
Yeah, so these practices are extremely effective if you allow them to be, right? If you're sitting there saying, I know what I'm doing, well.
Yeah, it's just like taking away the mind chatter.
Yeah. And part of it, a great part of it is allowing yourself to be, that's not quite right. Giving yourself the opportunity to not know. Okay? Everybody here in this room is the kind of person, you all have strong egos. You all know exactly who you are and what you're doing and all the things, and you question it from time to time, and you have your problems, but you also have responsibilities, and you're all quite capable in your own individual areas. Can you be in a place where you don't know what you're doing?
To unlearn. Yeah. I've had to do that with and I haven't quite accomplished it. Hasn't happened quite yet. From my physical healing work that I do, massage and reflexology, and how I tap into the circuitry of the body and stuff, to the Raphaelite healing work, the form. I haven't unlearned. Something hasn't happened in me. I know it hasn't allowed me to be comfortable.
Okay.
Because because I'm into the doing.
You're allowed. Okay, so just sit for a moment and whenever I say that, I have to wait for everyone to stop rustling.
That's something.
Yeah. Okay, and
Some of us are still in the vortex.
Yes.
We're vortexing inward here.
Our brains are totally bored.
okay. So the way that you can start is by focusing on the heart, by concentrating on the heart. And when I say that, I mean that your consciousness actually settles down and becomes the heart center. You can manage that, or at least, pretend, visualize it. That your consciousness settles into your heart center, and the thinking then becomes the thinking of the heart. And then, as that feels comfortable, begin to visualize this energy circulating around you in a clockwise direction. You might even imagine some kind of force, like a whirlpool or a tornado, water spout. They always rotate left to right. But in this case, it's phosphorescent energy. See how far it can expand. And what you can do to encourage it is you can do something like a zine, a zine. Highest. The way you do it is you focus the E sound in the third eye, and that will speed up the rotation of the vortex, like this. Yazi, Yazi. And another practice that works in a very different fashion, but is also just as effective, is hak, the truth. So that as you go, ya, allowing this whole sensation, internal expansion to recognize itself and eliminating all of those impediments that we insist upon but are really quite illusory and artificial. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Huck!
Hook.
Yeah.
Huck!
Hook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huck! Yeah.
Yeah.
Huck!
Hook.
Yeah. Huck!
Hook.
Yeah. Huck!
Yeah.
Huck! Yeah. Huck!
Hook.
See how that changes it? But still it's there, it's rotating very fast and you're expanding further and further into the universe. You know, you might even imagine one of those wonderful images from the Hubble telescope. The infinite stars, the incredibly vast array of galaxies. All part of this vortex that you are. And then once you're expanded into this state, well, you have merged with the being of the universe. Remembered that you are merged with the being of the universe is closer. And this is Dul Jalal. Dul Jalal. So let's do moon prayers. For those in need of assistance.
There is no lunch in the vortex.
No need.
I guess we'll just have to come back to
Yeah.
the physical. Most gracious
Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect,
the
the divine light and the spirit of guidance, Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize thee in all thy holy names and forms, as Rama, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Buddha. Let us know thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as Moses, as Jesus, as Mohammed, and in many other names and forms, known and unknown to the world. We adore thy past. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for thy blessing in the future. O Messenger, Christ, Nabi, the Rasul of God, thou whose heart constantly reaches upward, thou comest on earth with a message, as a dove from above when dharma decays, and speakest the word that is put into thy mouth, as the light filleth the crescent moon.
Let the star of the divine light
Shining in thy heart, be reflected in the hearts of thy devotees. May the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole of humanity as one single family in the parenthood of God. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. 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 Pour upon us thy love and thy light.
A
Torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness, a rock in the weariness of life. Thou, my Master, makest earth a paradise. Thy thought giveth me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminateth my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the broken-hearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth, blessed Master, thou art the prophet of God.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Are they
Yes.
e-files or are
PDFs.
They're PDFs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So just go inward for a minute. Watch your breath. Just bring your attention into your heart center. By that I mean that sensitive place within yourself. Get back into that whole idea of being in and of the sun. right down into the core of your being. This is lesson 6. This lesson begins with the Chagall breathing practice that we just did. You're going to we've reviewed it already, so we don't need to. But I'll read you through it, and then we'll do it. Put your index fingers on your eyes, right at the, not on your eyes, but on the bone beneath your eye. Your thumbs on your ears, and your fourth and fifth fingers on your lips, and middle fingers on your nostrils. And as you breathe in, think of yourself as a wave in the sea of the universe. Remember, the wave does not have borders, so it is the whole universe that builds itself up in you. Then you exhale. The wave recedes back into the whole ocean and forms a wave interference pattern with all other waves. It continues to exist, but it is intermeshed into all the rest of the ocean. You inhale only through the right nostril and exhale through the right nostril. All right. So let's begin again and just do that once or twice. Now when we do it, we'll do it another time, but this time think of yourself as a tapestry that is made up of the strands of the universe that interweave. As you get closer to the center, it is more like the tapestry, and further away, it is like this. It is the separate strands. Now, okay. Now, as you hold your breath between the inhaling and the exhaling, there is new growth that is taking place in the depths of your being, irrespective of what is converging from the universe. So again, do it again, and then exhale and relax. Notice again how you feel. And if you'd like to express that, please do. Anyone? No, okay. Just feel like it did before, just feel differently. How do you feel within yourself?
I sometimes do the breath with the ocean and the wave, but I had been doing it the other way. like when I inhaled, I was the ocean, and when I exhaled, I was the wave coming forward. So to do it, as you described, was very interesting. That
Just make that switch.
yeah, and so that when I was the wave, I was like, woohoo! Like out there and up there and riding, and then just
Yeah.
like to lock something back in.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. I thought that was an interesting key sentence here. That when you hold your breath, that there is a new growth that is taking place in the depths of your being, irrespective of what is converging from the universe.
Irrespective.
Irrespective.
That sort of confused me. I think that, so I had a standstill wondering what that was, and I actually started feeling tighter, like the tapestry got really, it was a little tighter here than it was there.
Well, you're not
Whatever it
in
was.
control of that thing that happens irrespective of your wishes. It's a state of grace. There's something changing within you. That do you have any thought about that, Ms. Sauer?
No, I'm doing fine.
But so that it's for me, it's kind of like, oh, okay, there's something else going on without my conscious knowledge and without my awareness that there is a growth happening, irrespective of the universe, so on, of what is converging from the universe. Pretty amazing. So,
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know for me, the thing that Mr. Weir keeps bringing up is that, well, Alina, what do you feel is emerging? So it's like the pull of the future is pulling something out
Okay.
constantly to emerge.
very good. Okay. So, with that idea in mind, just go inward, go into the depths of your being once more, and simply explore or ask the question, is something new emerging? Or if it's not totally new, what is it that wants to manifest? You may only have a vague sense of it, but nonetheless, just tap into it, whatever it may be. When you're complete with that, or have some thought about it, open your eyes. Joshua?
The first thing that came through was clarity, which has been something that's been going on for a while. But then I said, well, what's behind that clarity? And then it was like bravery. I was like, bravery? What? And then I just sat with that. It was felt really bright. And then I started thinking, I said, well, you know, to me, the flowers are really brave to open up, like a beautiful, perfect flower to open up, and, you know, they could be saying, oh, you know, someone's going to come along and pick me, or, you know, bee's going to come and get my pollen, or, you know, that someone could step on me, and but they're just so brave in the little just in the little pieces,
It's an act of creation. It's like a creative act.
It is, yeah.
It's an aggressive act. in a
It's
sense,
it's
too.
a force of nature to be. It's maybe not blind faith. It's it's faith with conviction.
Okay. Anyone else?
I still struggle with that statement, irrespective of what's going on in the universe, because if it's qualities that are merging, maybe I'm misthinking about what is meant by universe.
Or maybe.
Tendrils in the universe. I mean, isn't that
Well,
meant to be the oneness?
Well, I
and
think what the idea of it is there's a mystery about it. It's something mysterious that you may not have grasped in your meditation on the universe.
So irrespective of my understanding
Yes,
of what's in the
yeah.
universe, not irrespective of what's in
Yeah,
the universe.
Probably. You can think of it that way. Okay? There's a grace taking place.
Mm.
Something, to me it's a very happy thought. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. Candace? Yeah? You had something to say?
I
Michelle?
did. Remember that the whole idea of what we do is to become a co-creator. So the universe requires the occasional impetuous impulse
Really?
in order to continue to evolve. Otherwise, it'll just be static.
Mm.
Yes.
Say that again, please.
The universe requires the occasional impetuous impulse.
That's right. And that
Yeah.
relates to the flower that
But
you
shoot,
spoke of,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a
Courageous
compelling,
activation, yeah.
yeah.
And that comes from intelligence. Intelligence has to decide occasionally to be forceful and to do something different.
Okay, so that's in line with my being puts a different flavor on creation and the experience of
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, you get to decide.
Okay.
Remember, once again,
Free will.
free will. When God initiated the universe, he had to allow for free will.
Mm.
Absolutely critical.
But it's still something mysterious.
Well, yeah, because
No.
you're always tapping into something that you're not quite sure of.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and these impulses that are coming from within, what is emerging then becomes your challenge, because your personality has to adapt to it.
Yeah.
To extend it further, the universe has to adapt to your, emerging.
So I want to go
expression.
back to the thought of what it was that emerged in you.
Well, for some months, Nadia and some other people and I have been working with different wazifa, and I've been working with Yawasi for a long time now, months, weeks, I don't know how long anyway, but I can't remember what it means. But when we were just doing this in the second round of Chagall, I felt like I was like a tree. Well, I could only see green, but in a different way than I've ever seen green before. Is the word striated?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's pretty gorgeous. And then I thought about how working with Wasi, what does it mean?
Expansion.
I have been feeling more and
Mastery.
more and more confident,
Mm-hmm.
which is I don't mean confident like
No,
I mean, like spiritual confidence, like confidence in my. It was said somewhere in here, in the correctness of my being, like I'm supposed to be here.
Mhm.
I can't really fuck it up. I can't think of a less aggressive word. I just
That's going on a recording, and we'll go to millions of people.
But I can't think of a better word than that. You know what I mean?
Basi is like the exhale. Basir, which is its counterpoint, is the inhale.
Yeah, we did some of this here, but I didn't really care for that one at all. I must
And
have.
now here you get stuck with it.
Oh yeah, it's the exclamation.
Isn't that always the way?
Expansion. You're quite
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
See,
All right. Okay, Lima.
Well, for me it was, I kept getting this picture of this magma underground, bright orange, yellow, and it was like pushing up. So all I had was a visual, I didn't have any words.
Uh-huh.
You're
So-
going to spew out lava? Is that what's going
Can I have a different
Something
seat?
is going to be building.
Just to be buried.
Something's building up to
I would think so.
make
Yeah.
manifest, and
Yeah.
there certainly have been so many changes in the past few weeks
Yeah.
that I imagine will be showing its face. And
Okay.
When I was in Hawaii, I saw the flow. We walked miles in the sun just over the lava to see the live flow. Oh my God, there's nothing. I can't imagine that there's anything more amazing I'll ever see in my life. It was like watching the earth have her period. It was flowing under the lava and into the ocean and forming earth.
yeah.
yeah,
It was so amazing.
So just hang on to that sense. So just refer to it from time to time. Remember it from time to time, and you can go back into your core of your being, and then experience again if there is something that wishes to emerge. You know. Okay. So it says here, remember how you feel when you are dreaming. You're still conscious of the noise in the street, the furniture in the room, of yourself as the being that you think you are, of your memory and of people. At the same time, in a sense, you are floating a little bit, so it is like a double image. The kind of images that pass before your mind are like a kaleidoscope. You are just vaguely conscious of the physical environment, which has a sense of unreality. If you try to bring forth images, they won't come. One has to be in a rather uncanny contra state, moved by cosmic emotion, the very passive and attuned, in harmony. That means just letting go. There might even be an undertone of vague sound, with everything rather silent and mysterious, uncanny. So he's talking about the state that you would be in to begin this. Now, to start with, I'm going to suggest images, but eventually you'll just let the images come without my suggesting them. So this is this description about that he just had in this paragraph about being very passive, as if you're in a state between dreaming and awake state. All right. So I'm going to give you a series of images. People call them landscapes of the soul. All right. So imagine a desert landscape at dawn, flat in the cool of dawn, but still there is something remaining in the heat of the day before. You are there alone. You see the very diaphanous light at the horizon. It seems to be on the increase. The whole sky begins to light up, and so does the surface of the sand and everything around you. The surface is absolutely flat, so that you can see that the planet is round, a sphere. There is nothing inside except the dawn with the emergence of light, which fascinates you and draws your attention. Now it is getting brighter and brighter, and you have an urge to walk towards that dawning light. Now, all of a sudden, there is a very small but enormous bright little point of light that emerges over the horizon. Suddenly, the whole environment is transformed, and the point of light starts getting bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter. Your whole body is illuminated by that light, by the glow of that light. You open up the palms of your hands and the pores of your skin and are walking towards that light. You are fascinated by it, thrilled by it, exalted by it. Eventually, you realize that you are a being of light, and that the light of the sun has made you aware of your own being of light. Now you are running towards the sun, attracted by it as one would be attracted by a magnet. You discover an aspect of yourself that is perhaps latent, and it manifests as a result of this experience of your solar nature. It is discovered in your encounter with the sun. So just drink that in for a minute. Now I'm going to choose another scene. Suppose that you are wandering next to a lake which is absolutely still. There's no wind, and it is the evening. There are still stars in the sky, a full moon, and it is drizzling. You are endowed with an uncanny clarity of vision, and you are zooming on the surface of the water. You can see each drop that impinges upon the surface of the water, which forms an eddy that moves and becomes larger and larger until it starts encroaching on the eddy next to it. Together, they form a wave interference pattern. If you follow each wave, each eddy, as it starts and then it eventually intermeshes with the other eddies, you can see a kind of pattern being formed, which is a moving, shimmering pattern, continually changing and powered by the drops of water, scintillating in the moonlight. Somehow your whole being is drawn into this scene. In so doing, you are discovering the water aspect of your being, which is flowing and tends to merge and interfuse, intermesh, interweave with all things. For example, it is like cooperating with people and forming networking and new patterns of society, patterns within patterns, all beautifully dovetailing and integrated. So just stay with that image a while more. That's it.
I'm going to suggest another image. Imagine now a mountain scene. You're climbing beyond the forest and foothills until you come to more and more rock formations with streams of water. There are no paths anymore. The rocks are more abrupt and sharp. There is a mist formation underneath you, shrouding the valley below. Only little patches are visible in the depths of the valley, with conglomerations of houses. The sky is an array of the most vivid colors, with a bright orange, red, green, sepia, brown, vermilion, and silver gray. It is changing continually with a very strong wind, drawing the clouds into formations. Behind it all, an effulgence of the sun emerges from time to time with a golden disk behind all those cloud formations. You have this precarious foothold on the rocks, but you are so much a part of the whole glorious incandescent scene of light. Keep on climbing and are thrilled by the freedom from the lower regions, exaltation of communion with the sky. Now there is a thunderstorm beneath you, lightning and thunder. Where you are, there is a blue sky, and it is absolutely serene. In the distance, a rainbow is contrasting with the lightning below. You discover that you are reliving several aspects of your being: the freedom, the ecstasy, the explosion of energy, the glory of the rainbow, being part of the outburst of the forces of nature, or being enlightened and liberated. How are you doing so far? There's more. There's like 5 more. This is what we used to sit and listen to Pure Malaya do. These landscapes of the soul.
Are they intended to take us deeper and deeper, or are we wanting to identify more with one than another? Or?
How's it feel to you? You get to decide.
I don't know.
I feel it's different aspects, you know.
Westerners sometimes think that somehow they're supposed to pass a test and do it right.
Resisting sleep would be a thrill to me.
Resisting sleep, okay.
Always said no one could put you to sleep faster than Pure Malaya.
That's what happens. You understand what happens? Yeah.
It's so much.
Yeah.
That you shut down? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you really think you go to a different way of hearing it, in a way?
No.
I don't either. I think I'm asleep.
Yeah, you shut it off. There's too much. But as you mature, it becomes easier and easier to experience these states, because he was, trying to describe something at an extraordinarily spiritually mature point of view, and basically saying you can do this too. And we're saying, wait a minute, maybe not. Right? But then it turns out that after some time you can.
It's interesting, I was just reading in Shahabuddin's book that he often likes to meditate on mountains, a mountain scene, because he's always traveling and he's not in nature. So he has to bring nature in to his wherever he is in his meditation. So
That's an interesting point
like
of
if
view.
he's in on an airplane or is in a hotel room or whatever, you know, he can do a meditation on a mountain scene. So it has different effects. So the water scene is kind of different from the desert scene and the light, you know, and it appeals to different people in different ways.
Ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
It is back down to us again, the lush vegetation after the rain, the lovely smell of the earth, a sense of the growth, the profuse giving of the earth of itself, generosity, reliability, bounty. You can relate to this as being the root of your being, emerging from the earth, bearing fruit and again being recycled. The earth absorbing pollution, transforming, reprocessing, recycling all waste and making something beautiful out of it, the gift of life. Even going in and plowing that earth and experiencing the magnetism of the earth as one plows it. Then the joy of sowing the seed that carries the hope of new birth. Trusting the seed to the earth that may be covered by the snow in the winter and knowing that it will germinate and burgeon and flourish as the snow thaws. The light of the sunshine of spring will invite the seed back to life again. This could be followed with the bears, tortoises, insects, hedgehogs, all are hibernating and abandoning their activity in search of food and doing precisely what happens to the grain buried under the earth. The life in the earth is silenced by the snow and the winter has set in. You discover an aspect of yourself that needs to lie low, recover, feel, and blend itself to the region and forces of nature. In the stillness, protected from all activity of the surface, with a need for peace. Okay. Okay, there's more. Ready for another one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another perspective, rather familiar, is a flock of geese migrating, thousands of them flying in formation. Now we see them from the earth, but imagine what it would be like to be one of these geese, carried on that impulse that moves them to seek a tropical climate and escape the cold winter. It is the perspective of the earth as seen from above. And instead of it being the engine of a plane that carries you, it is your own ability to fly. The perspective of a bird instead of the perspective of the human walking on the planet on the surface. The freedom, the buoyancy, the ecstasy of being part of this whole thrust of nostalgia for another horizon. Breaking into new horizons, flying above the clouds at dawn or at sunset. Now the dawn that we know, where the sun rises above the horizon of the earth, or sets beneath the horizon of the earth, but the dawning of the sun above cloud formations, when the surface of the clouds are lit up by the sun. Instead of being a landscape, it is a skyscape. You are scudding this luminous skyscape, which is not solid, of course, and is very volatile. Blown by the wind in tufts of cotton-like mist formations, you feel part of the sky and of the light, discovering an aspect of your being which is unearthly, buoyant, free, ecstatic, evanescent, and elusive. You get all that? You feel elusive and evanescent? Buoyant and ecstatic?
You're reflected back into like what this is.
What this is? Which this are we talking about?
This
Oh, the
picture thing.
body. Mm.
It's really like a cloud in a way. That there's all this energy running through it. As if we were flying through a cloud, but we're resting in this cloud and through it. Yes, it was just it just hit me in a different way today.
There's a new film out wherein they have these little tiny cameras now, you know. So they made these harnesses on a few birds, and, you know, they had the camera on them, and they filmed from the bird's eye view of the landscape of the earth, and you can see, you know, I only saw glimpses of it, but across the landscape what it had been planted, so there's one field square that was totally red and another that was totally green, and you could actually see the curvature of the earth. And it's like you could see, and for one, sometimes the birds were just sailing there, floating, soaring, and other times they were beating their wings very, very rapidly and with tremendous energy and with great speed to sail aloft. So there were different types of birds, but it was absolutely magnificent to have this view of how the birds see it, you know. It's just pretty amazing.
What always amazes me with a bird is how they hit the branch absolutely perfectly.
And how they yesterday I saw an owl fly,
Oh, yeah.
take off and fly. I think it was like, I knew I was going to hear this today or
Oh,
something.
maybe.
Because I don't know how, like he was kind of huge, and he took off and flew and did not hit any of the trees in the woods. He was, you know, there was all those branches, and
He goes through 'em.
yeah.
What
Yep.
struck me with this one was the idea of the changing landscape that's volatile. Where the others were earth-based or water-based, there's a stability to that, but there's a part that you read where it talked about that it's shifting.
Yeah,
So that
the
was-
clouds. Sure.
That was different.
I mean, if you think about just being in an airplane and flying over
Yeah.
a cloudscape.
I usually close the window.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
interesting yesterday because there were two layers. So we had a cloudscape and it came down through that. It's all white. And it come through it, and then we had a ceiling of cloud, and
And
then
another floor.
blue sky, and then a floor of irregular patterned clouds. It was just, that was the second time I've ever seen that.
it's very cool, isn't
Through
it?
the layers of, well, in the middle of the sandwich. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it was still light. It was still luminous in that between the layers.
Between the layers of clouds. I
Yeah.
love flying and watching the earth. Oh God, I love it. I could just do that.
Ready?
I'm waiting for the landscapes of snow and
Ice and snow.
ice and snow. Snow and ice.
For another scene, unrelated to any familiar landscape, and composed of different patterns of light. There could be spirals of light, beams of light, flashes of light, kaleidoscopic formations, geometric formations that are continually changing. Now it is a total departure from the familiar scenes of the world such as we know it. The colors of the spectrum are coming through, assuming all sorts of patterns, a mixture of form and light and color. And instead of sitting back and watching it, take the plunge and enter into the scene. You might even let some of these colors come off on you so that you can feel the blueness or the redness or the yellowness of your clothes. Your whole being is lit up by all these different flashes of light. It could even be fireworks. If you go into the scene, give yourself up entirely without holding back. You can imagine that you are a firecracker that is exploding into millions of sparks and colors, shapes, and patterns, and then diffracting, creating a kaleidoscopic scene. You can move into this world of light and discover the horizon of light, brighter and more magnificent than those that you have encountered so far. It is a matter of letting yourself go into it and abandoning your identity or previous identity. The breakthrough comes when suddenly you can grasp that you are a being of light, and these are familiar spheres that you have forgotten. If you have the courage to advance further and leave the familiar world behind, then you will discover landscapes of light of overwhelming splendor, a different kind of light than the light with which we are familiar. There is no way of describing it adequately. This time, instead of the rather random light formations that we come across, kaleidoscopic, it seems like the patterns of light represent the blueprints of the physical world. They are meaningful, beautiful, with a harmony about them. They look like temples of light, with beautiful, symmetrical, and harmonious patterns that are not stationary. They are moving. You can feel the temples are inhabited with beings of light. You can only do that if you identify yourself totally as a being of light. Consider that your physical condition is just borrowed and transient, even to a certain extent, illusory. You've left your body behind. You do not know where it is. It doesn't matter. One has to be intoxicated with light, thrilled, exalted by light, radiant, burning with light, incandescent. The beings of light begin to come into focus. Angelic beings with very pure faces, not the kind of romantic faces that are described by some artists, but more like the icons of the ancient. Not like those dull and rather disagreeable faces, but very pure, very immaculate. A countenance that is an impression which we perhaps translate in terms of familiar faces. It is more like a state of consciousness that you grasp rather than a structure or an outline. Your face lights up in a moment of joy, a moment of exaltation, an outburst of splendor, transfiguring matter. This is self-discovery. Aspects of one's being that one had never dreamt of beyond one's wildest imagination. You recognize the self that you had forgotten. And there is even more beyond that, but it takes us so far away from the life with which we are familiar, there is no way of saying it. It is beyond existence. There seems to be an infinity of spheres, not 7 or 9, but endless. One can experience a state where there is, first of all, just spirit, and then intelligence. One can see that there is a core of your inner being that is immaculate, unchanging, untarnishable, like a mirror that can be exposed to all kinds of reflections, but when you turn the mirror, the reflections are gone. So experience that aspect of your being that is like the mirror. It cannot be tarnished. It cannot be sullied. It cannot be marked or imprinted. As one lifts oneself into higher planes, beings are more and more like mirrors, neutral, immaculate, impersonal. We have been reviewing a few of the components which form the tapestry of our being, and we have been able to identify them by conjuring the scenes corresponding to their attunement. Let us say they are the different attunements that form the symphony of our being. We are discovering by experiencing self-discovery. In so doing, we are manifesting and activating the latencies in our being by the power of creative imagination. Now I would like to suggest you make up your own scenes. Do not forget that you are present in this image and that you are the nature of the landscape. You are not just the observer, but you are moving in it and eventually merging into it. The thing that you can do as you descend back into your personal consciousness is to think of what you have been experiencing as a reminder of what you have always been. I want to establish your connection with the earth again without forgetting what you really are. All right, now breathe heavily, big breath, and then extend your breath as far as you can imagine as you exhale. Okay. It's a good moment for a break. What?
Inside of us?
No, Sufi practices that are helpful in enhancing this experience of understanding celestial creativity, I suppose you could say. But that's what we've been talking about all day, is celestial creativity. Wasir is one of them.
Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Expansion and contraction, expansion and reorganization, I suppose you could say. Nur Munawar is another. Dul Jalal Bali Kram, certainly. Azim Aziz, Ali Mutali. Zikr, certainly. So Ali Mutali. Ali is the highest. Whenever you put Mutta in front of it, it's even more. Mutta is more. More highest. Okay? So you can do it. And as you do it, the thing about we're saying these words that are, not our language. When I talk to my, I have an Indian married, a young woman that lives in Bombay, and she just knows it. It's part of her language. I mean, she speaks Urdu and Arabic and Hindi and English and a couple others. She's got like 6 languages, this girl. She's fun to talk to because to her it's just normal, these words.
Yeah.
But she has a fixed idea of what they mean. So when I give her a practice, to her, we always have to kind of talk about, okay, what's the esoteric meaning of this before we get, right? So for her, it's a kind of a different experience. For us, since it has no real relationship culturally, we can allow the vibration to affect us. For instance, my guide once gave me this practice to do. And she said, just do it 3 times and then sit there and ask what it means. What's this mean? So for 2 years I did that. Every day. And do the practice 3 times and sit there and say, what's this mean? And after 2 years, I finally got this very deep and powerful insight. I went back and reported. That's great, that's wonderful, that's fantastic. Can I go back and do it some more? That's how these things work. Okay, it's important to understand that. You're always unveiling, because as Westerners, we want cause and effect. We want to know, and it's just the way it is. It's the way our culture is. It's the way we've been raised. It's embedded in your DNA.
Instant gratification.
Yeah. Gratifications.
Instant gratification.
There's that. That's more recent, but the to know, to have to do something and to have an expectation of a certain
Cause and effect.
outcome. Thank you,
Outcome,
yes.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that's very normal.
This says that.
We are the people who invented the scientific method.
Yeah, and it's valid for what it, I mean. We have computers. I love it. I'm really glad that we have the scientific method, and it's really valuable for some certain kinds of things. It's not very valuable for what we do. Okay.
It's part of our unlearning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that aspect. And so, in a way, it's a great challenge to understand that you have this wonderful resource of scientific method. I mean, I know that Sarah uses it all the time in various ways. You're always doing that whole how the body works kind of thing, which is developed from people that are using scientific method. Cause and effect, trial and error, and so on. On the other hand, for the mystic, cause and effect is not very useful.
Is it for one thing because it's about duality in a way? Never mind. We don't need to go there. That's
Duality. Duality is something that we kind of say because we're not quite sure how to talk about it.
right.
Okay?
So if you gave me an answer, I wouldn't actually know how to tie it to that.
There you go.
She got her smart answer out.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. She managed. Okay. So, rather than, and I know I've talked to you all about this, but I'll say it again. Rather than expect a result, just do the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't expect a result. It's like when I tell my hypnosis clients, what we want here is not something that you can necessarily notice, but an organic change where one normal that you are now shifts to another normal that is what you really want. Okay? I am a smoker. I am not a smoker. Pretty simple. I'm not a smoker. How you doing?
I didn't have my cigarette today.
Okay.
I did smoke a pack last week.
I can understand that.
You earned that.
Okay? So, but what you're doing is you are creating a condition where you are shifting from one reality to another. If you expect that outcome, you won't be able to do it because you'll be continually checking to see if you did it. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay.
I had an experience a few years ago. I was really mad at my guide, and I was
I've
in a
experienced that.
session with my Buddhist therapist, and I said, I've had it with this nonsense. I'm just gonna quit. And he said, don't do that. And it wasn't until just recently, and he said this whole thing about how you might be able to do that and feel really good, but you wouldn't go anywhere from here.
Yep.
I didn't get it. I did not get what he meant about how important the longing is, because I was so tired of the vagaries of longing at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
just-
you wanted a concrete answer.
And I wanted to feel comfortable.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, Sufism isn't for you if comfort is what you're after. That's important. What is that statement? Comfort is the enemy of the dervish?
Oh,
She
I just like it.
You never liked that one, did you?
It's
But
not
we can't all be
really.
dervishes.
Huh?
We can't all be dervishes. Some
That's
of us
true.
like
But
No,
like
well,
comfort.
I was so uncomfortable for much of my life,
Yes.
on edge, uncomfortable, unhappy, that I'm delighted to have some measure of comfort that allows me to expand and to be welcoming and to enjoy life and to.
Where did that measure of comfort come from?
Don't ask. Don't ask. It's like so that it was a blessing. So it's like yes, but you don't have to hang on to being comfortable. It's like It's like what you talked about the courage, that you felt coming through. That adventure and that the bravery.
Yeah.
So it's like that's not particularly a comfortable feeling, but it also has some certain excitement to it. But it's like when people come to our house for retreats, and I do most of the cooking and so on, I give them the best meals that I can. It's not going to be like a retreat on the mountain where you had no coffee and you had no the food was awful. So that's a measure of comfort that I like to provide. So yes, I don't know how much I go for this idea of.
I wasn't thinking of physiological comfort.
Well, that's one thing, but there's also comfort in your being. It's like when you experience something like to me these meditations that we read, to me they're very comforting. They're expansive. They're comforting. They're wonderful. It's like.
But they aren't always.
They're inviting.
Inviting. They're very inviting.
They aren't always? Did you find some of them uncomfortable?
I always have.
I like the
couple of
light
them were
landscape.
churning things
was
up.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
well, I did too, but
It's my
I found it jarring at first.
Which
Oh,
one?
very
The
light
last one
one, the
about
light
the
one.
light.
But I go to Superman's house.
Yeah, I'm inside Crystal.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Fortress of Solitude?
No, the things.
Yeah.
Crystals.
Oh, yeah, I do, of course. Yeah.
But it's kind of like you said to me yesterday when I said I'm doing a workshop now with someone, and how that's really been an epiphany for me because I had gotten into a rut. So that's the comfort was I knew how to do my workshops. I could do them without thinking. I had a formula that worked that everyone loved. So now I'm doing one with someone, and it's like, shake that all up. Let's see what emerges.
Yeah.
So that's, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of comfort.
It's okay to have an edge.
Yeah.
It's like that's
But
I
I don't think that
should
we're
feel
always
like
meant
that.
to be in the state of uncomfort.
No.
Can't we sometimes help other people feel uncomfortable? I actually really mean, sometimes we're the instrument of another person's
Oh, yeah.
Well,
spiritual
you've had that
discomfort.
job, haven't you? Of working with the addicts and so on.
Oh yeah, I guess I do.
That's why they think of you as a witch and so on.
She said bitch.
Yeah, I
A
thought
bitch.
it was bitch.
But this is
swear
but
word.
this is a recording and it's going out to hundreds of people, so we don't use that word.
So, all right. So I wasn't even thinking of that, but it's like, yes, you can be the one that gives a little irritation that wakes people up. Little sandpaper.
And sometimes we do that unintentionally.
Yes.
Do you ever wonder why we keep tissue sitting there on the table next to the hypnosis client? Inevitably.
They're going to sneeze.
No. Slap you. They couldn't help it.
Sneezing is when the evil spirits are coming out.
That's when the energy shifts.
Okay, so the discomfort is your own personal analysis of your being.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It has nothing to do with whether or not you're getting good food.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
But a
Well,
lot of people, I think, interpret that.
Interpret that.
Oh, well, if you're going to go on a spiritual journey, then you have to, abstain from anything pleasurable.
Self-flagellation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose that's true. That's kind of the classic method, isn't it?
Could you make the statement again? Discomfort is
the enemy
The enemy of the
dervish.
dervish.
no, the thing you just said. The
What did I
questioning
say?
of your own being.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The questioning of your own
Question
being.
of your own being.
Oh, questions.
questioning their own being.
Right.
Ah,
Which you need to do. I mean,
Yes.
just like you mentioned when you're working with a client, you're constantly monitoring yourself. I do the same thing. Anybody that works with people does that. You know,
But I also, like you pointed out, it's very much based in science and cause and effect. But then there's that leap of faith when I depart from that. Like I always come back and touchstone that.
Mhm.
And I guess that's my analytical self, and also the defensive self of not being called quackery. But there are constantly points where I have to depart from that and just go into the energy
Yeah.
and blindly trust, and then come back and check back with,
yeah.
I have to say that you may not be blindly trusting, you may be connected and
Well,
flowing.
sure, my analytical
No, I don't
questioning
wanna correct
mind
her, but
blindly
just-
trusts and goes with the connected self. Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah.
Or you find yourself saying things that are a complete surprise.
Oh, well,
That's when I know I'm being authentic.
yeah.
When it's a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that all makes sense now. Ready to dive in some more? Because we got some more to go here. There's
Sure.
a couple more here. This is where it gets. This is very pure Goliath. This next, this whole bit here. Let us continue putting in practice. Oh, before I did that, I wanted to actually settle into a more internal groove by repeating Ali Mutali. And as you do the practice, imagine this state of extreme awareness, as if your being has the capacity to be aware of the vastness of the universe and all of its contents, everything that it is, as much as you can follow through in that, grasp it.
Right down to a mote of dust.
From that to the largest star in the most expansive galaxy. Okay?
Can you repeat the practice words?
Ya Ali, Ya Mutta Ali. Kind of a relatively common. It's a kind of. It's a practice you will ordinarily do if you're doing a 6-day retreat. It'll be like the 5th day. You'll be doing it. Ali, Ya Mutta Ali. So we'll do it. We can do it 100 times to kind of get into that state. So just let it flow within you without trying to give it any.
Are we doing this?
Direction. No, I wouldn't.
Are we doing it in tandem?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Everybody together as one being.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. All right. Here we go. And Ya Ali, Ya Mutta Ali, 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 Ali, Ya Muta Ali, Ya 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 Ali, Ya Muta Ali, Mutali, Ya Ali, Ya 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 Mutali. Inhale Ali, exhale Mutali. Did that settle the mind?
Now I'm curiouser and curiouser.
Curiouser and curiouser? Who said that?
The cats.
Oh, right.
Cats.
I was going to
Was
say
it
the
the
rabbit,
cat
but
or
it
was
wasn't.
it something else?
I think it maybe
Cat
cats.
or the caterpillar, one of the two. Maybe it was Alice.
Curiouser and curiouser.
All I know is it's Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Which
Mm.
characters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
The
just bought
Chester
that for
cat.
my grandchildren.
The Chester cat.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That
love
and
it.
through looking. Just finding original copies of the original was hard. There's a gazillion different versions out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Find the original.
Yeah.
It took me about a half an hour.
Well, it's the
Going
originals.
through
It's what it is the drawings.
There's the drawings and yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot
That's
of
what I
creative
want.
theater done around that too.
Hmm?
A lot of creative theater done around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, now let us continue putting in practice the method that is used by the Sufis in promoting creativity by giving a certain amount of vent to the creative imagination. All creativity starts in an internal state where one is protected from the environment and one can concentrate one's energy on what is emerging in the depths of one's being. Instead of trying to earmark creativity with one's mind, with the danger of conceptualizing and therefore distorting it, which is what we were just talking about, one is bypassing the mind by projecting it forward in a series of images. These images are simply the way that our mind translates its impulses and nostalgia in forms that are familiar to the body, that is, landscapes on the planet Earth. That is why in dreams there is not much psychic activity. It starts really with imagery, but the images give a clue to the state of one's psyche. If we try to imagine forms, they will not be expressing the moods or attunements of our deeper selves. But if we just let go in a state of dream, of reverie, where there is no will, then that image formation will begin to take place as it does in our dreams. Is this all clear? You look puzzled.
Read that last one.
The last sentence.
Yeah, the last sentence, I guess.
If we just let go in a state of dream, of reverie, where there is no will, then that image formation will begin to take place as it does in our dreams.
But isn't what you the whole thing that you just read, isn't that counter to what we've been doing this afternoon? Because we've been creating internal visual landscapes.
Yes, it is different. There are two different methods.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? Okay? Moving right along. Now, it is true that in order to become yourself, it is important to see yourself in another yourself who is better able to manifest that which you already are. How many times have I said that? I memorized that one. Okay? That's, seeing yourself and your teacher and a master, saint, or prophet. So rather than, as you do in one of those practices of imagining the master, saint, or prophet, male or female, rather than seeing them as some kind of remote figure that is impossible to emulate, they're really yourself. They're just better at it. But you can attain to that state. Okay?
They're better at being themselves, or
They're better at being you.
You.
Because you are them. Remember, we all are ultimately the same being. Okay? Even though we may necessarily disapprove of certain aspects of our being.
Which is why we choose someone who's no longer walking the earth, so that we don't get caught up in their human frailties. Are we going that far with it?
You can, yeah, but that's second step.
Okay.
First stage is Fani Sheikh.
Right.
Right?
Right, a
Your teacher.
loving shape, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it is true that I already said that, right? Consequently, we are discovering ourselves in those images of the sun, or the light, or the earth, or the heavens. On the other hand, what is coming through is new and is trying to manifest in known forms. Catch the inference there? What is coming through is new, but is trying to manifest in known forms. In other words, it may not necessarily be aware of the forms that we are required to work with here on the earth plane, this new thing. And it has to,
Dress up.
modify itself, has to mutate in order to be able to express itself here.
Or to be understood.
By us?
Yeah.
Or by...
Well, think about it. When you have a let me think how to say this. When you have a realization, or no, let's even try it differently. Think of an angel. When you think of an angel, what do you see?
When?
Yeah. What else do you see?
Quite a few...
Diaphanous fabric.
Yeah,
Light.
pretty face.
Like, yeah,
Right. Some, an exquisite form.
a form that we can...
Yeah, angels don't have no form.
Right.
They're just energy. But we, of necessity, we need to give it something that's recognizable.
Right, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is unmask an error in our way of thinking, which is to think that all we have to do to be creative is to actuate what is already potentially there in our being. To be creative, one has to freewheel, to do some brainstorming, to find new ways of being instead of being limited by one's inheritance. Even though this inheritance contains, at all levels, including one's divine inheritance. Oh, this can inherit, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. To be creative, one has to freewheel, to do some brainstorming and find new ways of being instead of being limited by one's inheritance, even though this inheritance contains all the levels, including one's divine inheritance. Okay?
Big.
As I said,
that's
this is
the part of the tapestry that manifests irrespective of.
Yeah, there you go. It comes through. Good. Okay.
And Mercia talks about this in the Alchemy of Happiness.
Yep.
In a way I understand.
Here's the thing to understand about Sufism. If you're reading Murshid and you're really plunging into his words, but then you go and read Al-Huzwiri, who wrote his document in 900, it's the same stuff. It's just kind of advanced a little by each generation. Every generation does a little more work, makes it a little more easy to understand. And what Murshid did was he translated fundamentally all of that thinking into a form that Westerners could grasp.
Right.
Right? Because if you look through it, if you read the ancient Sufis, it's a continual. You have to continually get past all of the Quranic illusions. Okay, that they just took. That was just normal for them.
That's how they spoke.
Yeah, it was just regular stuff, right? And so, and you're reading this, and you have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
So you have to kind of.
You don't have that background.
No, it's not part of your culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh.
So what the brilliant thing that Murshid did, and that Pir Vilayat continued, was to make that available in a way that Westerners can feel comfortable with. Okay, breakthrough and free wheel, and they would never say free wheel.
Not until there were motorcycles.
Yeah, right. My friend Zumrud has this wonderful way of explaining it all. This he says to her, what Pir Vilayat was doing was not refereeing. He was like emceeing the conversation between Murshid and Ibn Arabi.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Like in that book. What's the name of that book that he wrote?
Which one?
The pretty one with it's got a maroon cover.
Oh, yeah, I know. That one, yeah.
The one about this, not the one about the.
Where they're sitting at a dinner table.
No, all of these Sufi. He wrote this book that the last book he wrote was I can't remember the name of it. A Conversation or something like that, where he just had all of the Sufis, all of the great Sufi masters sitting at a dinner table and having a conversation.
And this who wrote Pir Vilayat?
Pir Vilayat, yeah. And Mary did all these illustrations.
Oh, that is the one
Mm-hmm.
I'm referring to. Yeah, and they're all sitting having dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The mice got after I bought a couple of those, and the mice got after some of the pages, and I thought that's so appropriate.
Okay.
Dinner crumbs.
As you might have noticed, what we're doing corresponds exactly with the second phase in the alchemical retreat process, which is the alchemical marriage of heaven and earth. To do this, one has to think of oneself as a hybrid in which something new is emerging. A hybrid means, of course, the product of the intermeshing of different beings, tendencies, or inheritances. I find in myself, for example, a very good hybrid between East and West. You all know that, right? His mother was American. I can see in myself that you can see in yourself that merging or interweaving or intermeshing of two very different races, the Indian and the American. One's identity becomes a composite through the manner in which one integrates many different elements, forming a homunculus reality that results not just from the interweaving and intermeshing, but from the confluence. Let us say it is a very intimate blending, so that eventually the components have lost their idiosyncrasies. Okay? Everybody following? You with me on this?
And it becomes something new.
Yes,
The hybrid, yeah.
exactly, and that's what
Yeah,
we are
okay.
doing now. How many times have you heard me say over the past couple of years, we are creating a new emotion? We don't know what it is yet. We haven't named it yet because it's still in its formative stages. But that's what's taking place.
There's
A brand new emotion.
without moving beyond, rising above the distinctions and differences which divide us. This is a hybridization of humanity in a way, to even notice these teachings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And not everyone is supposed, it's like, this is not a conversion experience. This is,
Sufis are always at the cutting edge.
yeah.
Always. That's what we do. Okay? Okay. Think of yourself. Are you ready? Think of yourself as being a composite of all the different elements. Parents, grandparents, ancestors, people coming from different parts of the world, animal, plant, and angelic realms, then ultimately even your divine inheritance. All of these elements are intermeshed, interwoven, confluing like the...
He loved words.
You gotta love it.
And he was
Especially
so
his
good with
own.
them.
Yes,
Yeah, once you admit it, it's true.
Yeah.
Is confluing a word? I don't know.
Yes,
It is now.
almost.
Is it?
Yes, it's a word.
What is it like from...
It's similar to all the others that he mentions here.
It's a verb of confluence.
I guess so. Like a tapestry. The closer you get to the center, the more it makes sense. And the further away you are, the more you can't see what those different elements have to do with one another.
With fluency.
Kind of like Chuck Close portraits.
Yes.
Kind of like what?
Chuck Close portraits.
The further you get away,
When you
the
sit on the other side, when you stand too far away, or no, when you get
No.
close.
Close, you see the
can't
little
see.
squares that
When you
he's...
step way back. You
Oh,
see-
is he the one that does the
Philip Glass
Images.
picture.
Right,
and
right,
so on.
right.
Yeah, they're so remarkable.
Are they the ones where, can you see this?
No,
Because I
no.
can't see
They're
that.
giant portraits that are
Yeah.
that when you get close, all you see is blocks of color.
Oh.
And when you stand on the other side of the room, you see the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a grid. It's basically.
Anyway,
And the blocks may have different
actually, what
colors
you
in
just
them.
read is the
Actually.
opposite of that, isn't it?
This is
So
exactly
it's more
the
like
opposite.
Google Maps, clicking in to get closer until you can actually see in your living room window.
I've never been able to resolve it that bad.
Oh, I saw the couch that I put out for the trash.
Really?
Google Maps. I happened to go by that day.
Oh, that was on the street level. I've never actually seen the street level one. Huh. Okay. Picture now, in the middle of this convergence of all of these elements, there is the emergence of something totally spontaneous and unpredictable, not the result of causality, but your own creativity. Remember, it's not cause and effect. Right? Okay. Suppose you were able to take an old barn and make it into a new house, or take an old composition and refurbish it so that there's something of the old, yet the new elements are coming forth strongly. Which reminds me of Diodato's rendering of Caravan, which is, Duke Ellington's Caravan, which is this just wonderful piece, but then Eumir Diodato made it jazzy with the synthesizer and added some elements, and it's the same piece, but different.
Yeah.
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 It's that kind of thing. There's an old melody and it's all of a sudden transfigured into a new rendering. Or take a painting that you are working with. You can recognize the old painting still, there's something quite new in it. Speaking metaphorically, the new seems to emerge from the center and the old seems to disintegrate from the ragged ends, just as in a rose. The outer petals begin to drop away, but the new petals are formed in the center. There's no use trying to earmark these new elements with your consciousness. You would kill or distort them by observation, but you project them. Don't try to do it, but the dynamics of the psyche work in such a way that these new elements project themselves into images. Remember what we were talking about earlier? That you have to create something that's recognizable. It can't just be an energy form. It has to be something. This is how the unconscious attempts to tell us something that we would distort or limit by our minds, and therefore it is communicating a message under the cover of images. In those images, we recognize ourselves. Okay? Now, this can obviously lead to a problem where you insist that the image be what is emerging, and the image limits it. So you also have to be willing to allow the image to become something that's unrecognizable until it actually forms into something you can see, but it's new and different.
Like
So
when-
without expectation. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
Go ahead.
like in the Alchemy of Happiness, where Mershid talks about not trying to start with teaching people that they are part of God, because then without the softening, they limit God to
Exactly.
the confines of their own
Yep.
ego.
Yep. You may have noticed that when people who are very religious talk about God and how God feels, it's almost always how they feel. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You know? God has these opinions. God does, God does this, God does that, doesn't like gay people, and so on and so forth.
Oh,
No.
it's how
Right.
they're identifying.
They're identifying God as, right. God in their own,
Themselves.
their God is the God they create is in their own image.
With the limitations of their ego.
Yeah. So that's a danger that you have to be aware of, or at least be conscious of.
I think when people have dreams or even visions, different cultures have their different archetypes
Sure.
of symbolism, which manifest in that form
Yep, absolutely.
to make the story happen. Or
I've
make
never
the-
in my life dreamt a Chinese dragon.
I have.
Oh well, you're
Or, yeah, I've seen whole Tibetan proceedings and stuff.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that I'd never seen pictures of or anything before, but it was on. It was either Buddha's birthday or Maitreya Day in May sometime, and it was great. But
so you identify with that somehow.
Yeah.
And that would be part of
Come to
like
feel.
what Alice Bailey talks about in the Seventh Ray, that such experiences are available to
To everyone, sure.
Yeah.
If you want to go
Yeah.
back, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
From the Akashic records.
yeah.
Okay. Where are we at? Oh, here we go. I hope you will remember this leitmotif in the words of Plotinus. That which we fail to discover in contemplation, we seek to experience in the universe. That which we fail to discover in contemplation, we seek to experience in the universe. What one fails to discover of the bounty of one's being, one seeks to discover in another oneself. Okay? You see what he's saying there? In other words, we give over our own magnificence to someone else in order to recognize it. That's the classic Guru Chela relationship.
takes one to know one.
Why, yes. What we are doing now is a process of self-discovery. We are using experience, but purely to trigger off discovery. The images are the mirror in which you discover yourself. One is used to thinking that what one is experiencing is other than oneself, and therefore it's easier to project it on an image, okay? Which is the whole purpose of iconography, right? Because these icons have all kinds of little. I did not know this. We had a girl over here who knew all this, and she's looked at. I had this little aid that someone sent me from Russia, right? And she knew who everybody was. I had no
really?
clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
This is this saint. This is that one. This is that one. It's like
too.
I didn't know, but she
Yeah.
was all.
Yeah.
So to her, it was a story.
Yeah.
Okay, what we're doing is exactly what the painters and the musicians and all different kinds of artists are doing in being creative. We have to enter into a very deep place and let unconscious and impersonal forces take over from the personal will. I once offered to play a bunch of blues for Pierre Vilayet. He didn't want to hear it, so it was a funny moment. He just looked at me. Why are you torturing me?
Yes.
I was curious what would happen. Let the divine operation facilitate circumstances that are favorable to the divine operation.
Say that again.
I knew we were going to say that. Let the divine operation facilitate circumstances that are favorable to the divine operation.
You mean stop trying to control the universe?
There you go. There you
The
go. Good for
divine
you.
operation.
Yeah, I think it's like listening to your intuitive guidance.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than
Will you say it
demanding.
one more time, please?
Let the divine operation facilitate circumstances that are favorable to the divine operation.
Okay.
Do we need a short break?
Do we need one?
I think so. We just lost one to the bathroom.
Well, this is almost done. We're like just a couple more paragraphs,
Oh, okay.
and then we can have a. Okay. We'll do the evening prayers, and we'll be done. In Egyptian mythology, this is represented in a drawing where the personal ego is sitting on the top of a door, out of the way of the process.
Awesome.
Nice. Let your ego dissociate instead of your psyche.
Yeah, yeah. The ego is observing rather remotely without interfering with the state in the state of reverie.
Wow.
Okay. Now,
Wait a minute, say that he's what?
the ego is observing rather remotely without interfering in the state of reverie.
Okay.
Okay, this is all very heavy stuff because you're being asked to step aside and allow the universe to unfold in the way that is most appropriate to it, while at the same time you are also being asked to be a partner in the co-creation that the universe is unfolding.
This is different than changes in ourselves, irrespective of what is happening in the universe.
No, I think it's the
No.
same.
It's the very same.
It's the same.
In other words, you're always on the, it's the razor's edge, right?
Occam's razor.
Yeah. How do I say this?
What did you say? Alchemist rage?
Occam's razor.
The decision making process. Make this, make that. But to sit on the razor's edge is to be comfortable in the constant state of paradox. Because on the one hand, the universe is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
That's its nature, to evolve. You ever seen that program that PBS did, The Universe, where they talk about what they know of the very beginnings and what it had to be like and how it's progressed, how it's evolved in various ways.
Yeah.
From, elements have changed and different things like that. To the state that it is in now of constant expansion. Everybody knows this, right? The universe is actually moving much faster than someone just proved. They just won a Nobel Prize for proving that it's moving like 4 times as fast as anybody thought. Wasn't that what it was? Yeah.
Isn't that why time seems to speed it up?
No, that's because we're getting old.
No. No, there's something about
Technology keeps changing faster. You have to keep up with change faster.
Anyway,
I was thinking
David
that-
Ackerman.
Yeah.
I read a book quite a while ago, but it said it's called Waking Up in Time, and there's some scientific stuff in there about the speed of
The universe.
things happening, and a lot of it has to do with technology. And and the universe. But then recently I heard that, yeah, time is really going by faster. I don't.
Yeah, how
It's
would you
all
know?
relative. It's a theory of relativity.
Right. And
How would you know?
But if you look at
even
society
younger
and
people
how things have changed.
experience time speeding up, because I've done, it's my little world of, survey, just asking younger people, because people go, oh, it's already such and such, and go, yeah, time's gone by so fast. And I think, boy, younger people are having that experience as well as older people. And definitely older people, because we're getting older, I believe that happens. Anyway.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I?
My spew.
Jumping over the time-space continuum.
Flying
Continuum.
over it on the razor's edge.
Right. Right. All right. I remember I was going to say it again, that the universe is evolving whether we want it to or not.
Mm-hmm.
If we co-create as part of it, we don't get to decide what the evolution process is, but we do get to decide how it is that we participate. Right? And you could participate. Oh, yes, this brings to mind something. Let's look at it a slightly different way. In terms of the turmoil of the world right now. Take an example. What do you think is the evolutionary process taking place in Syria? Yeah.
Oh,
What is it? What is it an example of?
Oh, it seems to be de-evolving.
It's some sort of internal structure is being reformed, or internal structure of, I don't know, government or.
If it were part of the evolutionary impulse of the universe, how would it be? What would it be?
Kali.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe the destruction or the creation. Which part?
Well, leaves have to decompose in order to become food.
Okay. What
so
else?
both.
Okay. Yeah.
Faisal, Mahdia's teacher from Kuwait, I heard him talk about Egypt because I met him back when Egypt was doing its thing, and he talked about how the Egyptians are a people full of heart, and so they were able to apply that quality and follow all the way through with the upheaval of the government, but then their heart doesn't. The heart is not actually very organizational, and so they are not doing a very good job of building a government that can function.
Okay.
Is that the kind of thing you mean?
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, exactly. You know, all of these things are part of evolution. And there's another part too. Up until, and this is like seems to be something I get into a lot. Up until very recently, in historical terms, say the last 50 years, the way that people organized themselves was pretty static. You were part of a village or a part of a community. Your parents and your family did this and that.
Where it was, you have like a czar-like creature. The hierarchy is
really
very
extreme.
You have the lineage is so strong, and to create the upheaval where the participation of people who have never participated before. So it's a huge not knowing what to do, and I kind of, the only thing I can compare it to is here where we've had a shift in the roles of men and women, or young males and females are not quite sure what what roles to be playing, because everything has been shifted up. You know, what is a female now and what is a male? And because everybody's doing everybody else's quote unquote job of the old school of roles. So now we have roles totally being thrown up in the air again. So it's a breaking down of this role system that has been had for identity. It's an identity crisis, yeah.
Well, in Syria, it's like it occurs to me that the whole place is going into rubble, being completely destroyed in order to rebuild. It's like so.
Possibly.
The ideas of their government and who they are, if everything is in question. It's like people have had to flee,
Mm-hmm.
to Turkey or Lebanon or wherever, in order for something new to come forward.
Okay.
So
One time I had a meditative experience a long time ago of angels creating an earthquake and dust and rubble, and as the dust settled, they started to dust, push away the dust and find stones and build a new wall. So
Mhm.
it's something new is going to emerge. It's going to be it is very painful.
It's been going on for the last 2 centuries.
Yeah.
It started in Europe with World War I and World War II, but before that there was the Crimean War and there was Napoleon and all of the wars that Europe went through as they shifted from aristocracy to democracy. It was very painful, right? But that's what World War I and World War II were about, ultimately, from the historian's point of view. And now that's continuing into the rest of the world. It's still going on. It's like the ripple effect, right? It just takes longer with population density. It takes a while for that to happen.
And with cultural beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
like the Middle East and Russia, they have such.
It's built into the culture, and to have
Yeah.
not knowing there are no good role models. I hate having this. The United States is supposed to be a role model.
We are.
And that's what's being copied, and it's like, oh, I wish we had a better role model for them.
That's what we've got.
That's what we've got.
What is it Winston Churchill said? Democracy is a terrible form of government, but is better than all the others.
No, I haven't heard that quote
Yeah.
before.
Something like that, right? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying about the people in Russia participating on a level that they had never done so before, because they used to consider the wealthy used to count their wealth in the number of serfs that they owned rather than the number of acres of land that they had, or or in rubles or whatever. They counted. They had people. They were wealthy because they had 10,000 souls. It's like.
Well, they weren't souls; they were animals.
That's how they thought of it.
Yeah.
So
And the people who were being counted they knew they were being counted. Like it
Yes.
was
Yeah. They were aware of their status.
yes.
And they managed to maintain it too. You guys have heard me talk about my Russian Marie that I'm so proud of. Well, she and her husband and their little girl moved to Thailand, and I just had a Skype conversation with her last week, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. Excuse me. And she said, "You have no idea how peaceful I feel." She's not in Moscow, where it's constant stress, constant worry, constant danger.
What's the danger there right now?
Criminals
Yes, a lot of
The
criminals.
Oh, yeah,
Russian
it's huge
mob is the
criminal,
most
yeah.
vicious.
Yes.
riding a crowded metro. It's dingy. It's dirty.
They wait in line for hours and they're at risk of being robbed while they're in line.
Yeah, all of that happens. And now they're in a suburb in Bangkok. She walks to her job. She's still teaching ESL, but she's teaching ESL to little kids. And she just and her husband has this gig with this. It was interesting with him because he's a musician. He's a fine musician. He's a wonderful pianist, and he's finally got a band. Because in Russia, what he would do is all they cared about was making money. They didn't want to do anything original. They didn't want to rehearse extra or anything beyond when's our next gig so we can make some more money. Now he's with a group of men or women, I don't know what his group is, that want to compose and to
Create.
be creative, and they're
Not watch
willing.
hours.
They're willing to spend hours rehearsing.
Just jamming and
Yeah. So he's really happy about that. You know, so it's a huge change for them.
I should say.
Yeah.
Is she Russian?
Yeah. She's you can see it in her face, Mongoloid. You know,
Mongoloid.
she's Mongol. Yeah, you can see the
Oriental look.
the
Steps.
mid Russian steppe features. Yeah.
Yeah, and her husband also.
No, he's from Moscow, so he's white Russian.
What does white
So I
Russian
think-
mean?
More European.
So it might have been like a German-Russian mix, or
Oh yeah, probably Polish or
I
whatever.
think that was a more political thing.
That was a political
It was
thing,
a
but
political label. I can't tell you more than that, but
white Russian.
yeah, white Russian, very
Good.
Russian.
So
Yeah.
it's vodka and milk and.
okay, she gets to be a smart aleck too.
Yeah, no.
So I-
Okay, here we go.
Can I ask you a question? So
Yes.
I think you said the universe is evolving whether we like it or not. If we decide to co-create, we don't get to decide the outcome basically, but we do get to decide how we participate. In other words,
Right.
that,
Yep.
and we also have some influence in that small part of it that evolves with as us.
Yes. Okay.
Nice.
Now, the personal ego comes in at the end of each scene of the reverie, a kind of autopsy, if you will, like the scientist who is able to draw some conclusions from what has happened. When the reverie has been completed, at least one scene of the reverie that you could reflect upon as one remembers one's dreams. You can discern certain clues, for example, building a bridge between the state of reverie and the nitty-gritty of life.
Feels like that's what we've done today.
Going back and forth? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then at the end, there's a bunch of excerpts from the teachings of Hazrat Inayat Khan that Pir chose. And the question is, did I put them in the copy? I don't remember. You have the copy there? Yes, I did. What a good,
Thank you.
what a good
Thank you.
fellow I am.
Yes, you did. It's in the other room.
Okay.
I put it on a chair for you.
Okay, so there's all that material that you can look at later.
Is that packet 8?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And then contemplate it some more, if you like. So what did you learn today?
Oh,
Wow.
I want to go back into the vortex. I like that. Yeah. Mu.
Yali, Amut
Yali. Imuta Ali.
Okay.
Is that A-L-L-I?
A-L-I.
A-L-I. Okay. Yeah. The space travel is something else, and I was having an awareness of my own being while I was out there. That I just an awareness, because I didn't know how big I was or small I was, or even if I was.
Okay, I want to leave you with this.
You're witnessing something.
That from the Sufi point of view, I don't know about other points of view, I suppose they're similar. The soul is the universe. And then it agrees to limit itself in an extraordinary way in order to experience physical reality directly. Okay? But there's still a part of it that is the universe.
So there's a part of it that does not manifest into a body, but it's still hanging out in the angelic realms or in different realms, or in many other lifetimes at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Possibilities.
That's another one, right? That's an even more complex point of view. Okay? So as you examine this material, allow for that, I guess we could call it the X factor. Right?
Since we're 21st century people.
Yeah. of the unknown that is still, or it's not that you don't know it, it's that you don't pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be closer. Okay.
Don't
So-
have the vision for it.
Maybe, but that's what we're developing, isn't it? I mean, you had little glimpses today. Everybody did. I know you did. Little glimpses. And you just enhance those glimpses. Recognize that you have the capacity to glimpse. That was funny. I didn't get any? Thank you.
She had her shades on.
Okay, let's do evening prayers. O thou who art the
Perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly cometh from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness, teach us thy loving forgiveness, raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide us, send us the peace of thy divine Spirit, and unite us all in thy perfect being. Disclose to us thy divine light, 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 disclose to us thy divine light. Warner of coming dangers, awakener of the world from sleep, deliverer of the message of God, thou art our Savior, the sun at the dawn of creation, the light of the whole universe, the fulfillment of God's purpose. Thou, the life eternal, we seek refuge in thy loving enfoldment. Spirit of guidance, source of all beauty, and creator of harmony, love, lover, and beloved Lord, thou art our divine ideal. Amen. Okay, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
For being